once upon a
Yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like in a father's life, weekends hold little to no meaning. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
there for
it's also
sure.
really valuable in a way because
Hmm.
it is definitely like less going on
Hmm.
comparatively. So you get to catch up on a million things that you didn't get to through the week. So it's sort of our reconciliation time of the week.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Good to hear that. Um, we definitely have, I think, all the people who are joining, if you're back for the session and have been following Pulse for some time, a little show of hands would be nice, or just write something in the comments. Great. I think it should take us like 4 5 minutes more to start.
Sure.
Yeah. Can you bump?
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. I think it's time we should start. So, welcome Arjun and welcome everybody who's joining us for the first time or has previously joined us. This is Elevate Pulse Live, which is a teaser of sorts for our, you know, bigger picture, which is Elevate, which is a growth accelerator program. Let me, yeah, this the Elevate is a 12-week growth accelerator program where if you are basically a startup which is clocking in a revenue of say anything between 5 to 25 lakhs in MRR, you should definitely check us out. What we do is basically for 12 weeks, we map you to the best of the mentors, best of the speakers in the Indian D2C landscape. So ranging from Soumya from Clovia, Deep from Sirona, Arjun Vedya, anybody who could be there. We'll map them to you, and there'll be sessions, there'll be mentorship, there'll be amazing Q&A, a lot of camaraderie within the community that you'd be learning from. Along with this, we also give you enabler credits, which are basically your operational services, say ShipRocket or Go Quick or a Web Engage. We partner with these guys and bring amazing credits for the D2C Elevate founders, and that will basically help you scale your brand. Some of our just to give you guys a little bit of the show, these are some of our speakers and mentors, Arjun also being one of them, and he's here today for an amazing topic, which is local to global. And as a founder myself, I've almost always wondered how could I go global before even like starting locally. There's always this dream of a founder, how to go global. And Arjun here, who's the founder of Naagin, an Indian hot sauce brand, is here himself. I'm sure he'll be able to tell you a lot about his journey. In Naagin was founded in 2021, and in within a few years, it's been a standout brand, Arjun, in the FMCG space. We'd love to know your journey. We'd and most importantly, I think this is a very famous request from all the people, would love to know the story behind the name Naagin. Over to you.
Thanks for the awesome introduction, obviously. Um, nice. So I mean, this is as you can imagine, always one of the first questions anyone asks. So let me just get that out of the way early. But before that, I'll just backtrack a little bit and just tell you guys sort of like how it came together. I'll keep it really brief. But basically, what happened is that there's three of us co-founders, Mikhail, Kshitij, and myself. Kshitij and myself were running a marketing agency before this. Mikhail was running a pizza chain. So he already had some of the food chops, over the past decade. And Kshitij and myself, and I'd been running an agency before that as well. So we kind of had a really good sense for like branding, marketing, e-commerce, and things of that nature as well. So we sort of just came together. I'll give the two of them a little credit. They met. Mikhail and Kshitij know each other from high school. I know Kshitij from my agency, and my first agency did all the branding work for Mikhail's pizza place back in 2012. So we have all these funny little connections, but none of us knew each other really that well. I think the two of them reconnected at like a party, and they were just like, hey, like, Arjun and me are working on like this really fun content that we're looking to do in the food space. And he tells Mikhail all about it. Mikhail's like, okay, hold up now. You told me about the hot sauce content. Well, let me talk to you about like hot sauces themselves. So I get a message at like 3 in the morning, which obviously I'm not awake for, but I wake up at 9 and just like, God knows why this is coming right now. But they're like, interesting opportunity to talk about a whole other thing. Why don't we meet this afternoon? I said, okay, fine. And the three of us met, we discussed it. I think what really stood out is it wasn't just that we all liked the idea of doing it. I think it was because it's very easy to want the same things, but I think what we really appreciated is the format and how we wanted to go about it was like had a lot of overlap. And I think those are like really underrated things when you're working with a partner or selecting a partner or anything like that. It's not just wanting the same thing because that's the easy part. Everyone wants to be like rich, famous, this, that, whatever it is, right? Like, I mean, or popular, like, super successful business. Those are the easy things. But like, how do you plan to get there? Are you planning, your same stage of life, or like what kind of input is everyone looking to get into? I think that makes it a really interesting conversation. And because that went the right way, and because we all kind of saw all the complementary parts that we had from the existing businesses, we kind of like put the whole thing together. And yeah, I'm really sorry that took way longer than I hoped, but that's sort of where this came from. So the idea was like, look, let's come up with a fun name. Mikhail said, look, I already have this name. So this conversation is like 2 hours old. Like, how is that even possible? And he's just like, no, no, no. I was watching the Bangladesh cricket team. They took a hat trick and the dude started doing a Naagin dance. And I just thought naginsauce.com is the type of thing that should exist. So he went and bought the domain back in 2017. He was just sitting on it, renewing it every year. And then this moment comes up and he throws out the suggestion of like the Naagin, let's call it Naagin. And we just said, at first I thought it was like a terrible idea. Then I said, well, let's reconvene tomorrow, but slept on it, woke up the next day, and I really couldn't think of a good reason why not. Like, I mean, saap dasta hai, like chili sauces have some bite. Nagin is a very Indian word. It's a TV show, it's a movie, it's a song, it's a dance. Why can't it be a hot sauce, right? Like,
It's
one thing
almost
you do
should
know is it's a good mood.
right.
Um,
It's
so we just
its
said,
own.
look, yeah,
Yeah. Amazing stuff. Do you actually I watch this show a lot. It's called The Hot Ones.
hot
Do you know?
ones. That is
Yeah,
exactly what Kshitij went to Mikhail with and said, we want to make this here. And that's when Mikhail said,
it's
forget hot ones, the show, why don't we make the sauce first?
right, right.
So with a little bit of luck, the show comes out soon, our version of it anyway.
Oh,
But yeah, that's
I
absolutely
really
the inspiration of where this came from.
that's on the plates. I am so excited for it.
No pun intended, very much on the plate.
And I've watched that show. It always makes you hungry.
Yeah,
But the host does such a great job. But I've always envisioned, you know, uh, our Indian hot sauce. And whenever I think of it, Nagin is just like my. It becomes. It has become symbolic to the hot sauce culture in India. Nagin was, one of the first ever brands to do that, like create that identity of a product mapped to, the name. Very few brands are able to achieve that, where it's just synonymous, the identities. And anytime I watch the show, I think of Nagin. It's always a thought that goes on in my head. I'm super excited. For anybody who doesn't know about the show, go on YouTube, just type Hot Ones, and I'm sure Arjun is bringing the Indian version of hot sauces, Hot Ones, which we are all very excited for. So, Arjun, thank you so much for that intro. I I'm not lying. Honestly, I am surrounded with so many questions that people have requested from you. And so, without like wasting any more time, I really want to do some justice to the audience who has really taken up so much time to draft these questions. I'll start with a very
sure.
basic one. Okay, this one right here says, "How do you make the right GTM?" This is like the basic I'm starting with.
Sure. I'm going to assume we're talking about the local market.
Yep.
I'd say like the quickest way to get honest feedback. So we said we wanted to do three things before we started. Number one was I wanted to get feedback from people who weren't my friends and family, because they tend to either be too honest and brutal, um, or you'll run into the folks who are just like, "What is wrong with you? Like, ढंग का आदमी होता था ना ये लोग नागिन ये क्या है?" Like, like, and then
Yeah.
but they don't get what you're trying to do at that point in time, and then 3 years later they're like, "Oh yeah, of course, I totally get it now."
Yeah.
So you kind of want to get that feedback from third parties, because friends come with like biases, and I don't mean that negatively. Sometimes it's a very positive bias as well. The second thing is we wanted to check is like, is anyone going to pay money for this? Because the easiest thing in the world to do is to give stuff away for free and get good feedback on it. Who's going to tell you anything bad about something they got for free? So he said someone's got to pay for it. And the third is you want to get honest feedback from people who are absolutely not like you. And the assumption is everyone who is my friend is probably got at least a few overlapping qualities with me. So I need to meet a broader spectrum of people who don't have any connection to me and do not care, and let the free market feeling come to me. So the easy answer to this is like, so we found a beer festival. We said people are going to be thirsty. Let's make them, like, I mean, hot sauce will just help the beer people out. If anything, we'll be doing a credit to the community over here. And so we just went and set it up. It was a festival in Mumbai called Tapped. And we went there and set it up, and we sold out on the first day. Um, and I think it was just shocking for us because, I mean, it's what you want to happen, but you don't actually think it's going to happen. And it didn't start amazing. And I think those things are like really good to hear, like, I mean, it's 2 in the afternoon, everyone's dying in the sun, half the people haven't even made it to the event, and you're sitting there being like, oh my God, it's been 3 hours here and no one has come to the stall. Two people came, and the second one who came in and said, hi, what is this? Hot sauce? And he tries it and he's just like, do you have sugar? He said, I don't do sugar. And he walked off. And I was just like, what?
Mm,
That's like the first bit of customer feedback I ever got was
yeah.
that experience. And I was like, and this better change when the sun goes down. And so it did, right? Like, I mean, and there's all kinds. There's people are super interested, some people are like on the fence. But I think what was really interesting is that we got to see people's reactions. We got to hear their feedback and say, don't give us to, it would have been nicer if you didn't give us breadsticks, but you gave us bread, or anything to like try it with a little bit better. And it's just a series of things that you start learning, from customer interactions to, if when I speak to this type of person, what words did I use and how did it work for him? Like, did he just look at me blankly, or did anyone respond to a particular choice of words or particular use case? And none of that happens until you start listening to customers. So the joy of D2C is, the whole point is you get to do exactly that. But we wanted to just do like a micro version of it at the beginning and sort of like see people face to face. So I'd say that the festival was a really great way to get a good sense of it. And what we took out of it was the sauce was not ready. It could have been improved. It could have been tweaked, which is what we did. And so a lot of our go-to-market strategy was informed by those opinions from people, and paying customers, and people who are unhappy about stuff, telling you why they are unhappy, but still supportive and being like, hey, but this is what you can improve. And you'll be shocked at like how much people actually want you to succeed. Like, I don't know how much they're going to go out of their way for you, but it's no one is rooting against you, and I think that's something you can absolutely use in your favor more than you feel sometimes, on a day-to-day basis. So I thought that was really instructional. But we also said, look, like, we're not equipped to do retail today. We do understand e-commerce well, we do understand Horeca well, because the people running it have sort of had those experiences before. So the obvious choice for us was, let's start D2C, let's start Amazon, and let's start trying to sell to restaurants. So start in your comfort zone, start with what you know, and then just try and build some confidence that allows you to do a whole bunch of the things that you don't know. And just don't be shy to get everything wrong, because that'll happen. Like, I got every possible thing, every mistake a human can make, I'm pretty sure I made it. I think the idea is to just not make it very many times. I think is probably the best way to say it. But yeah, like, I think go to market is just about, don't overstretch yourself, understand what your resources are, make sure that your bandwidth is somewhat covered, have multiple eggs, going on in your conversations, and just have a bigger worldview. I think is the big learning for me. Is, you tend to grow up in like a 1 kilometer radius of your house is all the shops that I ever been to buy any food, and to just start understanding how different people are in different parts of the city, and what shops are in which places, or what restaurants deliver where, and like, the whole world just sort of expands, or at least your understanding of it sort of changes. So if you have that already, amazing, because that's a skill otherwise that you have to pick up, or just a way of thinking that you have to pick up. And if you don't, then I mean, it'll happen anyway. But just start in a measurable way, that is like sort of measured way, where you don't sort of go too wild. And I think that's sort of the go to market 101, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like what is most essential when you're building, I think this remains constant at whatever stage of building your startup you're at, is talking to your consumers. Like, it's a non-negotiable. Doesn't matter if you're the founder, CEO, CTO, you just got to talk to people. every day. And I think sometimes that's that's the job. That's like
Yeah.
more than half your job done, like speaking to at least 10 to 15 people daily. And in your case, it's brilliant that you can also see their experience, like when you taste. So now you can
Mhm.
recognize their facial expressions, and like the eyebrow twitching and everything, and all of that sort of adds to making a better product, um, identifying problems, and that could really help you in your GTM. So thank you for that answer. It was very well answered. Again, coming to another basic question, which I think is it's not related to uh, global, but it says explain the steps to positioning a D2C product by taking any example, like steps to defining positioning. It's in
Mhm.
quotes, by taking
So,
any.
okay, so is another keyword here product and not brand?
It just says explain the steps to positioning a D2C product, taking any
Yeah.
example.
Okay. So, on a product level, I think what's really interesting is that you get to talk about what makes it different from what came before. And
Hmm.
and and I think you have to have a really healthy understanding of how people already perceive it. I think the biggest risk you can have is your own biases and thinking that, look, everyone thinks they're right, right? Like, I mean, I don't think I have bad taste in music, but who does think that their own taste in music is bad or whatever it is? Like, you tend to say the things that you do and feel the way that you do because you feel it's right, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's a really big element of knowing what other people feel about it too. And that's the way you have to sort of like start at your positioning standpoint. A is just like, does anyone else in the world even think this is required? And oftentimes it's not that like, oh yeah, this is like this big need and I'm coming in to fill this need. It's sort of like I didn't even know how much I needed this until I realized what the value was when someone introduced that concept to me. So I
Right.
would not get disheartened by saying, because I've had people come to me and be like, bhai, ketchup's been there for like 100 years, tu kya
Yeah.
kar raha hai, chili dal raha hai usme. And I was just like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, I mean, you're running a mining business. So like, patthar nahi hai kya duniya mein? Like, I mean, how do you respond to that, right? It's just, you either believe you can do the same thing better than someone else. And
Hmm.
that's a tough game to play, but absolutely you can play it because even now everyone starts pizza companies, they start dal makhani, chicken makhani, it's the same thing. Like, but you think you can do it better or you think you can get it better. That's amazing. But really, then the difference is going to be real estate. Where do I set up my restaurant? I think what makes McDonald's is like one of the best case studies in food in the country is that they have mastered real estate. It's not that they've mastered food that's surprising. The McDonald's, it's that they mastered how to pick a location better than anyone else. And like that's brilliant. So I think for us when it comes to, sorry to like, sort of like diverge from the question, but like I think when it comes to positioning, it's really important to understand like where do you stand in the mindset of the people already, and what can you reasonably convince them to believe
Hmm.
without it being like a man, obviously tu ye bolega, like you have
Hmm.
a vested interest in saying this, so why should I trust you? So this is a question. So I used to run a marketing agency before this, and well, two different ones before this. So this question comes up a lot, or at least it used to come up a lot, where it's like, do I trust Priyanka Chopra's choice of, shampoo?
Yeah.
I mean, you've clearly been paid a few crores, like, to say that it's the best. Like, I mean, I don't know that she truly believes it's the best. Like, I mean, but that that's advertising, and then paper mein likha hai, you know that that's PR, but they still sort of inform your feeling, of like how you approach it. And oftentimes people will look at a subject and they'll be like, okay, abhi FOMO ke point mein aa gaye. Like, I don't know how many people are into sneakers here, but nobody cared about Adidas Sambas till like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a regular thing. It was the most basic thing. It was on sale all the time for like 20 years. Now suddenly it became cool because of some new 10 Instagram celebrities do it. Now everyone is doing it. And then you went like 6, 8 months and no one could get it on discount. And it's just like, so it's just waves. Suddenly, like, socks, being not wearing ankle socks is cool. But it was always normal 20 years ago. Then it became uncool in the middle and now it's cool again. So sometimes it's a trend question in how positioning works. Sometimes it's a timelessness point. So it's not a trend question at all. And it's more just like, what do people believe? So in the food place, food farmers had like a big impact in like how people read labels and things like that. And you can sort of go down like the health route to make a point, but then it should actually be scientifically correct what you're saying, right? Like, so positioning and being synonymous with something means you have to be that every single day. I don't think, I don't think, like someone's positioning is how they look. I think it's who you are in every aspect of your life. Like, I think my positioning of whether I am a rascal of a human or not is probably informed by people's interactions with me over the last 35 years, right? Like, I mean, it's not just like, oh, chere se dikhta hai, like, type of situation. So I think the idea is like, walk the walk and you're more likely to hit the notes that you want to hit on your positioning. Like, if you're just being unrealistic, then the people will see through the BS, like, well, it should be believable. You should be able to have a strong case for it where possible. And if you're doing nutraceuticals or something, like, you should be scientifically backed or whatever it is. Like, pick your moment, pick your item, and where you can't do social proof and professional proof.
I I also believe कि अभी हर कोई सब कुछ ही बना रहा है. Like everyone's making everything. Like
Yeah.
what's new, what's old. It's about trends and hitting the right emotions. Sometimes just being at the right time, right place. Uh, that shouldn't deter you from building what you're building, and that's like one golden thing when you're defining your positioning. That said, one has to be very real about how they're positioning their brand, what they're saying, and how much they believe in it. Like, you have to believe in it to make other people believe in it first. So,
Oh my God. Thank you for saying that. That is one of the most underrated things ever. Is
yeah,
if you are not projecting that yourself, no one's going to buy it. Like, no one's going to believe it.
exactly. I can say like, I've got like a property on the moon, and I can tell you, I can tell five other people. It's just about how much I believe in it, and that would change the tone of my speech, that would change my body language. Maybe two people would be like, oh, she's just like, that's all BS. But the third person might be like, oh, there's some substance in it. uh,
Yeah.
so it's a lot of trial and error, and one shouldn't be scared to try out different things until and unless they start believing in it, is what I truly think. But again, Arjun, beautifully answered, and it really helps. uh Coming to the third question, um it's about global, and the founder has written, at what stage should one feel confident about global expansion? What are the top indicators?
Okay. This is a relatively broad question, so I'll
Yeah,
try and attack it in a couple of different ways. But the cop out answer is there's no right answer for this. Like, it's really about what is your product, what is your industry look like, how many resources do you have, what is your current positioning, what is your manufacturing capability, how good are your operations. And it's actually a mixture of like all of these things together at the same time. Like, let me put it this way. You would think that, like, say 50 lakhs or 80 lakhs is a lot of money in India, because India hi to hai to theek hai, but actually that's like $100,000, and that's like barely one person's salary in the US. So if you think you're going to go and like do like a nationwide launch in the US when you're sitting on 20 lakhs, like, you are like lying to yourself, like, because there's a 0% chance of you doing a nationwide launch. Like, like, I mean, it's how you define the term, I understand, but it's barely a drop in the ocean. Like, so even in India, it might be a drop in the ocean, the way, like,
yeah,
prices, vendors, ads, influencers, marketing opportunities, things like that, like, are becoming so expensive. So what do you do? And I think the idea is you have to be really smart about which battle you're going to pick. And if you believe that the right battle to pick is the global battle, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, I don't think Cobra Beer would have been the hit that it was in the UK had it been an Indian company necessarily. Like, there's no divine right se hota hai. Like, I mean, you earn it or you get lucky, and like, amazing. And if not, like, I mean, you can find your moment. Like, I believe hot sauce is a very global category. If I'm doing
Right.
chutneys, I'm not excited about my global potential. If I'm doing pickles, I'm not excited about my global potential. If I'm doing pizza pasta sauce, let me put it this way, I'm not dying to buy a German company's salsa.
Hmm.
Now, nothing wrong with German companies. They could be making the best salsa in the world, but I'm not dying to do it in India. I'll buy Indian companies or I'll buy a Mexican company. And maybe the German company is the best. So I actually am not sure that my day one choice for our own product selection would be. I'm not sure I would be super bullish on salsa on day one. I don't know if I would be super bullish on pizza pasta on day one. I think chili oil has a chance, and I think hot sauce is definitely a global category. So I think those are where you start because you think that it resonates better in the international market. At least in my case, that's how we've processed it. But that doesn't mean that we can't come in with other things. It's like once you reach a point where people are like, oh, that is, Dhanka company, and then you can do almost anything, and they'll be like, okay, inhone kiya to acha hi hoga. Like sort of, I mean, extreme example is like a Tata or Reliance or something. You just be like, oh, Tata ne kiya to like it's really good, and that's just what you've managed to build. So you could wait until you're that huge also, and then say now is the moment to move out. You could say I can meet all my revenue goals from 3 cities. I don't even need to go pan India, let alone, like international. So and on the flip side, I don't know if that Vadam would have been Vadam if they did not play the international game the way they did,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it could be that your entire business should be an international business. Like I don't know much about the say textiles and like home blankets, and I don't even know what the category is called exactly, but comforters, blankets, bed sheets, things like that, linens and stuff. But I know that you can make a killing in this in Canada and the US because they don't have the manufacturing the way you do, but you
Hmm.
don't have the presence over there. So is there potential to really do well on Amazon? Absolutely. And what hurdles you have to cross are all the same ones, like good ads, social proof, good pricing, good quality, excellent reviews, little bit of PR. Like I mean that those things, some of those things are like very consistent. But you can grow without branding if you're happy to take a longer time. And I'm say this from the perspective of someone who isn't just like, some companies are really lucky. I call it lucky, but maybe it was just excellent strategy. But some companies just show up and they just smash it out of the park,
Yeah.
right? And you're just like, oh man, like I wish that could have been me. But like other companies have to chisel their way into it. I had to become good at what I do. I had to like work hard towards it. I had to build on brand awareness. Like, and you don't know which one you're going to be until you start. And you have some sense unless you're lying to yourself. But like I think those things all matter in when you're deciding, is this the right moment for me? And I'll just keep this part brief, but what format are you taking to go abroad has a lot to do with also your selection. um Am I air shipping and it's no longer making sense economically? Can I ocean ship it because my product never expires? Do I have branding money? Do I not have branding money? Do I need to take an importer distributor model? Do I want to go online? There's no right answer. I would just say, I mean, AI definitely helps a lot, but there's a million things you can find out with AI tools, with general reviews and blogs, by scanning sort of reviews yourselves. Like there's a billion things you can do, and then never underestimate the power of your gut. I think the more time that passes, the more you look back and say, damn, I should have just trusted myself. Like there's an intangible, you kind of know it when you know it, that seems to get better over time. And we can just call that experience maybe. But when you hit that moment, like, I mean, you'll know it already.
Yeah. Yeah. That's there. Like one thing that I would definitely do is was like make some money in India. Like it's not like you're not making any money in the market that you're present, and you start thinking about going global. For sure, like there is no time.
Absolutely.
Maybe this could be a factor where I at least spend like a year in India before even thinking about global, because when you try and go global, there's deliveries is people are stuck at deliveries thinking that, oh,
Yeah.
delivery would be hard. But you even it's just the tip of the iceberg where your landing page is different. The review system they use is very different. Like Trustpilot is used globally, and if you're integrating Trustpilot on Shopify in India, then Indians are not used to Trustpilot that much, but abroad people rely on Trustpilot. That is the source of truth for them. So your review system changes, your landing page changes, the word shipping now to click now, such small CTAs, what
Yeah.
languages they use. There's just so much amount of detailing that goes into making a business go global. There's just so much time and effort. So what I generally do is like stay in India, understand India, maybe find markets that are sort of mimicking Indian market. So I did this experiment when we were trying to sell in UAE, and
Mhm.
because being a founder, you don't go to any school that teaches you these things. It's all the mistakes that you do. I was really like stressed out that why are only Indians buying? Why aren't like the Arabs buying? Why aren't these people buying? And then when I reversed my perspective and I'm like, hey, great, amazing, I know Indians. There's a
Mhm.
huge majority of Indians in the UAE. Media buying is cheaper, relatively cheaper than US. Let me look at it this way. But that said, I spent a lot of time, like I spent 2 years in India trying to haggle, understand my customers, trying to see major global players also. So it's a lot of groundwork that requires for you to just uh, go global. It's
You know,
definitely
that's
not.
that's that's so well said, because you will learn all the e-commerce problems, the operational problems, the customer problems, and it's better to learn it in a place which has your own time zone. It's cheaper to manage. You have your base of operations here, and you kind of just learn all the variables that are going to be in place when, or in play rather, when you take that international. Because it's all the same things. Like the basics don't change. It's just how you interpret those is very different for every different market, and
Mhm.
learning it cheap and mastering it cheap before you take bigger risks and like more cash flow and like all those other funny things, um is just like some of the best advice out there. So that's
Yeah,
spot on. Could not agree with you
absolutely.
more.
Absolutely. I hope like people take some wisdom from it. Okay, on to the next question. This is an interesting one. Does Indian language brand names work across borders?
This is a really interesting one. I think okay, so the bad answer, but also I think it's right, what kind of name is it? Like, are you saying Neha? That's not so hard. I is it some hardcore like Thaikudam, something like, which is, it's, like some countries, people are just not used to even rolling R's, like they can't even like pronounce certain words, right? But on the flip side, I would say like there's two ways to look at this, really, which I think is more valuable. Is one is, do you really care? Like, I don't know what Cholula means. I don't know if it's the name of a person, and I don't know if it's a Spanish word for something. Right? For many years, that was my standpoint. But it never stopped me from trying the hot sauce. Or I don't know why this is the first name coming to mind, but like I watched this video the other day of someone just like, oh, like watch brand names that you're pronouncing wrong. It blew my mind, because the first one was uh Jeje LeCoultre, and it's like it's spelled Jaeger LeCoultre, right? Like, and if you never knew
Mm.
that, you never heard someone say it, you'd just be like, oh, that's just Jaeger LeCoultre hai bhai, like, and it's like, no, like, you spend 10 lakhs on a watch, it should get the name right. But do you care? Like, I mean, actually, did it stop you from buying it? Like, I mean, you're just figuring it out. Like, I don't think phonetically, if it says something bad, for sure you
Mm.
should know about it. Like, I mean, if it says the equivalent of FUCK in another country, because that's your brand name, but in Spanish or in Latvian or something, it sounds like that. Like, I mean, these are maybe things you kind of want to know, but like, I don't know if it's really that big a deal. I don't think anyone really holds it against you. If anything, if your positioning and your branding is localized, it'll just add authenticity. to what you're all about, and you can make part of your marketing and your communication about why that brand name resonates so well with the product and the value that you're trying to bring to people and the philosophy behind it. So I'm not sure it should be a purely negative question. It could very well be a positive question, and you can make it work for you. But yeah, you should probably do a little bit of research just to make sure, किसी को गाली नहीं दे रहे हैं or something.
Or not hurting religious sentiments. That's
Yeah,
a
there you go.
big
Yeah.
no. So that, yeah, I think doesn't have to do with Indian any Indian languages or foreign languages. It's just like be wary of these things, little things that you take into considerations, because people
Like
will.
why people say nagging. I was just like, why you nagging me? And I was just like, okay, like, I mean, I'm not sure that's the positive word I wanted to associate, but hey, like you're saying it, and that's good enough for
Yeah.
me today. Maybe I'll just work harder to make sure you get the two A's right later.
Right.
I'll work harder. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Here, a founder says, brilliant brand. How do you deal with audience diversity across a market like India? Interesting.
Ooh, very, very interesting one. So I think the main thing for me, and that doesn't mean that this is 100% true, and maybe this changes for category to category, price point to price point. But let me put it this way: is like a baby's pram might be a need product for one person at one point in their life and never again. So and whereas mine, I'm trying to do like, hey, why don't you buy a bottle every month? You could totally do
Yeah.
that if you wanted to. So it's a completely different game that you're playing, and the way people are is different in different places. And here's one crazy thing. I won't get too deep into it, but like I thought it was hilarious when I heard it. So this brand goes with like this packaging, like people start doing like this brown sort of like jute, sort of like very clean, fresh farm
Minimalist.
see-through
Huh.
packaging, minimalist brown packaging makes it feel like, clean and nice. And they go to like some suburb in Bombay, and they go to like the distributor, and he's just like, "ये क्या है? Like मेरे कांदा और आलू आता है इसमें." And I
Huh.
was just like, "What? That's like premium packaging."
Right.
And the same guy is just like, and he's pointing to the Lay's packet, and he's just like, "ये अभी अच्छा है." Like, ऐसे like चटाक आता है, like, दिमाग में. And I was just like, the same thing is the exact opposite in like another posh part of the city. And it's the same product, and it's still humans eating it, and people just feel so differently about it in different places. So one of the things I learned was also, every Nature's Basket is not selling the same amount of sauce. Means, why is that the case? It's again location. Maybe the people in that location have more of a system where they don't need accompaniment products. Like, say if any Nature's Basket that, let me put it this way, if you have a home system where you have like, the Maharaj coming in every day and making you fresh chutney and fresh pickles
Mm.
and all of that, you're probably not buying too many hot sauces in your life
Right.
on average. But if you are a single person renting somewhere, you don't have everything being done for you. You're doing your own laundry, you're managing your own life, you're probably working away from home, you've got your own, managing money. Like, you want quick, good, reliable, awesome fixes, and you might buy like 8 bottles.
Hmm.
So the way people are might be about their position in life, the way their home is set up. It could be about disposable income. Sure, it could be that also, but different. But it's not just regional sentiments of like, hey, you know people do this in this part of the country, not so much of it. Though I hear from very reliable people across industries, and I don't know if this is true, but I'll share it anyway. But apparently Kochi is the best city to do a trial. um, I've been told that it has every demographic, and it has all the right spacing. And it is the single best city if you want to understand how your product can do in every corner of the country. Apparently, the best option is Kochi. I don't know if this is true. It's just
Wow.
something that was told to me. But I can tell you, Punjab is ordering like, an obscene amount of mayo, which is not being done in any other state. And that's because they eat parathas with mayo now. And people in Delhi are eating momos with mayo. And I was shocked when I heard this. But that's a thing that changes also. So I'm sure there's versions of this that are true for every different industry. And I guess the idea is you just have to try and figure out as much as you can about what that version is for you over there.
Are there like any strategies that you actively take up to address the diversity? Like in okay, let's put it across this way. When you're dealing with local audience versus when you're dealing with your global audience, like what if you were to see it in that context, do you have any like do you do any active changes, and it could be across various things, any insight on that? Like, do
Yeah,
you see
such a
your
good
own product
question.
differently? Do you start seeing your own product differently? Do you start thinking about it differently? And then that chain of thought is trickled into your content, in the captions that you write, the pricing, of course, so on and so forth.
My God, you hit every point. That's amazing. But yeah, literally everything you said. Like, I mean, we have two products called the Kanta Bomb and the Smoky Booth.
Hmm.
The Kanta is a Kantari chili, which is India's bird's eye chilies. Now, bird's eye chilies, you know as the name bird's eye chili, but also peri peri is an African bird's eye chili. Kantari is Indian bird's eye
Hmm.
chili, and so, but no one's going to say Kanta Bomb, outside the country. So we just called it the bird's eye bomb outside the country. And it's not like the bhoot chilokia there, it's the ghost pepper. So it's just called the smoky ghost outside the country. So it could be as small as customizing the name for the audience, and it could be way larger. Like in India, I'm not going to go around telling people as much as I do, in the format that I do for international. I don't keep harping on the Indian hot sauce element of it. Um, but I do believe that's a big case to be made abroad. Say, for example, like I think that there's two big countries that are
Hmm.
known synonymously for spicy food, and that would be Mexico and India. So
Right.
people can be like, oh, Mexican food is spicy, Indian food is spicy. Um, I think that's a place you can just go in and say, okay, cool, yeah, I am the Indian hot sauce guy, and it's all about the Indian hot sauce. You've tried the
Mhm.
Kentucky version, like the Buffalo version, like the whatever Texas hot sauce version, Louisiana version. You've tried the Mexican hot sauce version. You've tried the African version. Now try the Indian version. What is the Indian version? That's me, right? So I'm trying to like define a version. So I'm trying to get them to be excited about my product based on their association to what the product represents for them, which is spicy food. So India is a land of spicy food. I am doing spicy food from India. Is it possible that I am the right guy to be trying your spicy food fix from? Maybe it's not your day to day. Maybe it's not your taste and flavor, and fair enough. But like, try to karna chahiye. Like so you get to play a different mood over there versus here where you're just like playing the same game but like very differently. I'm not trying to convince you about country branding or anything like that. I'm just coming to you and saying, well, Tabasco is literally made for the Western palate. Sriracha is made for the Eastern palate. Like it's more for Asian food. Who is making anything for the Indian palate? Something that works for your palate as well with a, like cheese toast, as it does with like a fried rice, as it does with, a burger. And that's me because I'm looking at every version of how Indian people eat, and that's how we made the product. And so you try and play like a very different version of what you're saying to people, and it's not that you're not being honest with everyone. You're just cherry picking what you feel is most relevant to this audience, right? So and I would say that that's just smart. So you can try, but I think some of the best things you can do is to just talk to people. Like there's no substitute for that. It's just, and keep throwing things at them and see what sticks. And I think you'll get a good sense of that. But you hit the nail on the head. Even pricing, like even when we're sending out, when I
Mm.
send export orders or like something like that, like you send out your pricing in dollars versus like
Mm.
rupees or little things, So and content, like someone had to write to me, like my Singapore distributor, for example, said, man, can you send me some content? I said, yeah, sure. What kind of stuff? He's like, anything with like international food. But because it's Singapore, because there's a lot of Chinese people, show me rice, show me noodles, and
Yeah.
anything Western. But don't show me vada paos and samosas and pakoras and like, because no one's going to get that here. So
So,
the type of visual he wanted to see was based on what the people there eat. In the US, it would be burgers and hot dogs and pizzas and like, more casseroles and mac and cheese and
Mm,
things like that.
mm.
And maybe in the UK, it's like fish and chips or like a few other things over there. And you kind of do need to cater that, because otherwise you will see something and you'll just be like, that looks awesome if I ate those types of things, which I don't.
Got it. So, like, just curious to know, and sorry, I haven't seen it, so I'm just like curious to know in the flow of this conversation, like, did you ever have to, because you're a global player, and like you rightfully said that you're selling a bird's eye chili or like an XY chili, uh, would you just go on swapping labels around, like just how the packaging looks? Because why I'm coming to this is because in India sometimes our packaging is also like a knock at the customer's head that okay, I'm trying to evoke some sort of reaction by through my
Mhm.
packaging, through my colors, through these unsaid things. So when you're trying to knock into a global consumer, do you do these changes, or do you think they're important enough to do?
It could be depending on the product, perhaps. I mean, I can't rule it out completely. In our case, we haven't. I thought that the
Yeah.
style that we went with is fairly international friendly. I mean,
Mm.
every time I look at it, I can think of like four other things I'd like to improve, but I think it's just about the timing and what would you do and when and why. But absolutely, you can consider it, and I think different people respond to different things, and if you have a good insight into that cultural mindset, absolutely do it. But if you're trying to create a one size fits all for everybody,
Yeah.
stick to something that's more universally acceptable. But while it's also showing off the key elements of what makes you unique. Because if you miss
Beautiful.
that out, then you're like a generic white label product. You could be any one of those. So you have to keep some individuality in there, but you have to make it hit the maximum number of people. And I think that's why over time people tend to take less risks, is because you do all the crazy things at the start, and then as you feel the stakes get higher, you're just like, oh well, I don't want to rock the boat right now, so why don't I just go with something that's safe? But what made you pick up pace is that you were not playing it safe every day, and then sometimes you have to balance that out with like, you don't want to stop doing the things that made you likable, in the name of safety all the time. But yes, you have to have the wisdom to understand, I don't want to be unique and bad. I want to be unique and good. And just being unique is not good enough. So
Right.
if I need to be less unique in order to be on the good side, so be it. Because standing out you don't want to stand out necessarily. You want to be outstanding, right? Like this, you can stand out for being terrible also.
Yeah. And can you believe it's already like it's about to be an hour, and I'm so lost in the conversation, and there's so many questions to cover. But I
We can
think
zip through them.
uh, the last two questions, okay. One, and these are like basic for the audiences that might help them. What are the legalities involved in going global? Like, what are the sort of legal compliances, if any, that you should be looking out? I know it's industry specific, but still, like, some of the basic ones. And the second question is like, how do you collect feedback from uh, global consumers? Anything in your journey that has really helped make that process simple? So yeah, there you go.
Sure. So on the first one, yeah, it is very much industry specific, but I can tell you one of the things that's going to unnecessarily be a pain in your backside is going to be labels. Because at least in food, labels is a huge deal, and everyone's got a different version. Like in the UK, you need to bold anything that might be an allergen, and you have to mention it separately. In the US, you don't have to bold it in the ingredients, but you have to mention it separately. In India, you don't have to do any of those things at all if you don't want to, as long as it's fitting fasai. So everyone's standard is a little different, so you approach it a little bit differently. Now, you want a one size fits all, you can have the same label, also saying all allergens, also bolding it in the ingredients, and mentioning that it's the same answer for everybody. But UK's got a different nutritional table, USA's got a different nutritional table, India's got a different nutritional table requirement. So there are going to be some changes that you're going to need to make. Sometimes it's about contact information. Sometimes you need to include an importing party. So like one for sure that you're going to have to deal with is labels. In Europe. I don't know exactly what the rules are, but I do recall having a conversation with someone where they said, well, if you're going to sell in the EU, you got to be showing it in these six languages. And I was like, how are you even going to do that? But that is why people send those booklets
Hmm.
in stuff that you buy with like the same thing in eight different languages, because they just couldn't be bothered with customizing the language for the country they're selling. They say, I'm going to make the same booklet, include everything in it, just dump that in the box, and I don't care which country it gets sold in, which is a different way to solve the problem, and has merit in its own way. But yeah, like I mean, there might be n number of these. I would say trademark is a really interesting one to get into, and won't get into it too much, except I hate being the paint everyone with one brush sort of person, but like this is just what people tell me. The trademark lawyers have told me that is just be wary of what is happening in China. Now I don't know if this is some China bias like sort of situation, but apparently the vast majority of fakes do come out of China. So you should just have one eye on it. Honestly, no one is looking to rip off your brand until it's actually worth ripping off. So you don't need to worry about it on day one. But
Absolutely.
that doesn't mean if you can't create guardrails, you shouldn't. Like if you can do it and it's cheap enough, like go ahead and do it. Like, but pick your moments. I would say start with India, get that right if that's the starting market. And then if you're doing US, do the US one. If you're doing China, do the China one. If you're doing UAE, do the UAE one. Because everyone's got their own costs, and you don't have an endless pot of money. At the end of the day, a large part of what you do as a anyone running any team, let alone a whole business, is, and I know this sounds reductive, but appropriate allocation of resources is I know how medical that sounds, but that is actually half the game. Like that is half the game. Is did I choose to put it into people? Do I choose to put it into product? Do I put it into ads, or do I put it into customer experience? Like the whole day you're just juggling what should I put a couple of extra bucks into, and where can I do it with time and effort? Where can I have to do it with money? I would just say when it comes to anything export, pick an expert. Don't try and figure it all out on your own. Try and get a very good sense on your own and talk to 18 people if you can. Talk to distributors, talk to customers, hit up people on LinkedIn. Do all of those things on your own, but work with a professional consultant, because you're not in the business of taking avoidable risk. No matter what your business is, I can promise you, you're not in the business of taking avoidable risk and sending like lakhs of product abroad and then having it rejected at the port for some stupid reason is just not an option. So find out what it means, find out what you need to do. And this is a mixture of your shipping agent, your importer, your distributor, and industry experts within the host country, that home country. And between a lot of these people, you can piece together at least you'll piece together all the questions you need to ask and the list of humans you have to work with. If that's your good starting point, I think you can piece together the rest with people. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it's endless, and it really is product specific. But I would say trademark is a bigger deal than some people give it credit for. And I would say, yeah, labels is just one of the small, frustrating things you have to do, but just do it and rip the band-aid once. And for God's sake, keep your files editable, because nothing is more traumatic than needing to do your labels 120 of them again and a third time. And I think you could tell that's coming from experience. So I've been scarred. Just make sure you keep your label files very precious.
All right. And the last one was quickly. How do you collect feedback from your, or what is your like go to method of collecting feedback from a global, sorry, someone who's based out of India as a consumer?
Um, India is actually really easy in the sense that you can get in touch with actual customers from your
Yeah.
website, and they don't mind it. And there's people you can give it to for free. There's agencies that will also do like studies for you if you want to. There's a lot of options. I dare say at this point, a lot of us and our teams combined have friends in different parts of the country. At
Hmm.
this point in time, you can surely get feedback from multiple people of different age groups and whatnot. India is not a hard one, and for international, I think you have to be a little shameless. And I don't mean that in like a be aggressively shocking, a human, but
They they
there's
do
no, you don't
ask.
ask, you don't get. I think that's one thing I've learned is if you don't ask, you don't get in life. And I'm happy to just randomly message people on LinkedIn. and just say, hey, like, I no expectation, you don't have to respond, but if you got 15 minutes to spare, like, you can save me like years of misery or like months of misery, and send that out to 5, 10 people. You'll be shocked at like some people are just more willing to help you than you imagine. Like, and I'm not one of those like thoughts become things people, like I really am one of those, like, I think actions become things. I don't know if you're just wishing for stuff makes it happen, but you'll be shocked at like just people are more helpful than you give them credit for. And you might be able to piece some of that together. There's also places like Fiverr and n number of gig economy things that you can do online. I know this is a more USA, Canada, UK sort of heavy, comment to make, but I have no doubt that if you research a little bit, you'll find the version of that in other countries. And you might be able to do small batch sampling or small testing with people. And a little bit of this is just trust. You just have to trust that the person on the opposite side is doing it the way you intended it, and not just the way that was easy for him because they know no one is looking. Because I would love to get feedback on sources from different age groups from different cities, but I don't know that the guy didn't just send it to a classroom of 18-year-olds and get 40 bits of feedback from 18-year-olds and came back and said this is how they feel. And you don't know that for a fact, so just pick your people wisely, but try and like hedge your bets, talk to different people. Look, everyone is going to give you a different answer, and if that's not clear by now, it absolutely will be. And everyone thinks they're right. The idea is to listen to everyone and believe nobody as a gospel truth. Try and just contextualize what they said and which parts are relevant for you, and don't lie to yourself. It's just all I'll say is have the self-awareness to not lie to yourself. And apart from that, just yeah, just yes, this guy's like sold a 300 crore company, but he did it selling shoes, man. He's not sold a single bottle of sauce. You might still know a few things more. It's not just like because he did that, like, I mean, everything the man says is correct. Like, it might be, but like, trust yourself also. What I'm trying to say is that don't just blindly believe everyone. Just trust yourself a little bit, and yeah, and trust people a little more than you do, maybe. And if you already do, that's perfectly fine. Just canvas more people and get wholesome feedback where you can. LinkedIn is a
that
great
that
place.
that really worked for me. What I would do was like I would not bug them on SMSs or WhatsApp because that's like not the norm. People do mind. It's not like India. You can just like text people or like WhatsApp marketing or that marketing. Emails
Yeah,
really work. And what
yeah,
I would do was send them a Calendly invite. Open up my calendar. And I was amazed, like people like you said, like people, you'd be amazed how people would love to help you out. And a very genuine sort of email where you're not chat gpt, and at that time there was not chat gpt, but like a
yeah,
simple genuine, hey, I am so and so and I'm trying to make my product better, would love to speak to you, and just give out like a 10-minute slot of your calendly.
yeah,
Shoot it out to people, and there'd be one or two people who'd be and this is especially for people who do not have friends based out of the countries or that they are
yeah,
servicing, but really helps. And sometimes I would add like a Starbucks coupon. There are some companies who would do this
yeah,
actually, where they would give you coffee coupons,
yeah,
and not necessarily with your product, but something that you'd enjoy, like a discount coupon on a coffee, and that
mm,
necessarily might not be a product. You'd be doing hot sauces, but you're giving a
yeah,
coffee coupon free. But that's just a gesture, and
yeah,
it worked out really well for me, where I'd been able to connect with people. And that, mind you, that meant like getting on calls at 2 a.m. in my time
yeah.
zone, 3 a.m. But that's easy
Been
stuff,
there.
founder
And
stuff.
and absolutely, absolutely. And that's such a great idea. And I've seen people do this. I've just never done it myself. But so thanks for mentioning it. I'm definitely going to
Try it,
start that
try it.
myself now.
I think it's
Amazon gift cards, Starbucks gift cards, like that.
it's
Everyone will find
your
value for
product.
those. Yeah,
Exactly. Like the whole idea is to find value in, like, other than your product, because what really conveys your product the best is when you give them a freebie without even mentioning that it's a freebie. That is going
yeah,
to give more value to your product. But when you give something else as a free service, which is not your domain actually, that is just like a surprise. Every time there has to be a surprise factor.
yeah,
And yeah, people are ready to help you out. You'd be surprised. So makes us come to an end. I'm extremely sad. I wish we could just keep continue this conversation to another hour. It's so much fun speaking with you, but thank you so much, Arjun.
Likewise. You're
You,
most welcome.
everybody who's dropped in the questions. Please do try out the hot sauces. I am waiting for that show. I really am. uh, in
You'll
all
be the
honesty,
first to you'll be the first to know as soon as we've got
I'm
it going.
waiting for you guys. Thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, thank you so
Thanks
much.
everyone who's come in, and if there's any way I can help in follow up or whatever, please feel free to reach out. If I can, I absolutely will.
All right. Thank you. Have a beautiful evening.
You too. Thanks, Aishwarya. Have a super weekend, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
The recording has stopped.